Is there any pain deeper than being shut out by the very industry you helped build? Imagine pouring your heart, your soul, your entire truth into music, only to be cast aside the moment you speak up. Some of these artists were once hailed as legends. But the second they stood for something real, they vanished from the spotlight like they never existed. One young singer was blacklisted after daring to call out a director's abuse behind the scenes. A legendary voice was yanked off television simply for singing about black women's reproductive rights. A soul icon was replaced, last minute, because she refused to change her appearance to please white America. And that's just the surface. The stories that follow are darker, more painful, and more honest than the industry ever wanted you to hear. So stay with us until the end, and tell us, who do you think silenced them? Esther Phillips, the woman who knew too much. They say when Esther Phillips sang, it wasn't just music, it was a prayer, a cry for help, a confession from a wounded soul. Her voice didn't perform. It reported. If you listen closely, she once said, I'm not just singing. I'm telling you what they don't want you to know. Born into poverty, Esther was a teenage prodigy, too talented, too bold, too soon. At just 15, she was pressured into signing a lifetime contract with her first record label. She later called it a black incorporated prison sentence. And while her gift made her famous, it was her truth that got her erased. The turning point came in 1972, on a Harlem stage. After wiping sweat from her brow, Esther did the unthinkable. She stopped the music and told the crowd her label manager had raped her. The room froze. Silence spread like fire. Some thought she was joking. She wasn't. The next morning, a tiny blurb ran at the bottom of a local culture column. Esther Phillips causes a stir with unproven allegations. 3 weeks later, her new album was shelved. TV shows canceled. A host who once called her a queen now said, I can't afford to be sued. An insider leaked, she talks too much. They're shutting her down. But the real twist? A freelance journalist, Marcus Hilton, interviewed Esther that night. He never got to publish his story. But while digging through her copyright files, he claimed to have found a secret recording of her saying, even painkillers are more free than my contract. He kept the tape. 3 months later, Marcus died in a mysterious house fire. No suspects. No investigation. By 1984, Esther was gone too, dead in a small apartment. No contract. No copyrights. No encore. Just silence. Not the kind that comes after a song. The kind that buries you. They didn't kill Esther Phillips with bullets. They killed her with silence. 12 years of erasure. No headlines. No justice. Just a story that vanished, because she dared to speak. Sometimes, the truth doesn't set you free. It sets you up. And Esther Phillips? She wasn't forgotten because she failed. She was erased because she knew too much, and refused to stay quiet. Billy Paul, the man who dared to sing about life in a world built on silent death. While most soul singers of the 70s played it safe, steering clear of controversy, Billy Paul walked straight into the fire. And he did it with a song about something deeper than protest, more radical than politics. He sang about creation itself. Let's Make a Baby, released in 1976, wasn't just a sultry ballad. It was a quiet revolution. With its soft harmonies and prayer-like lyrics, it celebrated black love, black family, and black existence. But in the eyes of the powerful, it was dangerous. To them, a black man whispering about creating life on national radio was more subversive than any rallying cry. Just days after its release, the backlash hit. Internal memos warned stations to pull the track. One leaked document revealed a secret blacklist. Songs about war, protest, and Let's Make a Baby were now labeled as morally disruptive. Billy pushed back publicly. But the real betrayal came from behind the scenes, his own record label. Don't mention that song, a former staffer recalled being told. You don't get it. This isn't about love. It's about resistance. And if you listen closely, Billy's message was clear. We create life to counteract the death that's programmed into us from a young age. The industry hit back hard. His fall tour was mysteriously cancelled. A major European gig was handed to another artist. And in Chicago, at a sold-out event, Billy showed up in full costume. only to be replaced by a white country singer and escorted out by security. No explanation. No apology. The truth was never written into history books. But insiders knew Billy Paul had become a target, not for breaking the law, but for breaking the silence. He wasn't convicted of anything, yet he was quietly erased. His voice remained on the air, but his face disappeared from the screen. That's how the system works. They'll let you sing, as long as no one remembers who you are. Donnie Hathaway, The Fall from the 15th Floor, and the missing tape that was never found. Donnie Hathaway didn't die from illness. He died because his music spoke a truth the industry didn't want heard. In 1978, Donnie entered a dark, dangerous chapter, not because he lacked talent or opportunity, but because he started asking the wrong questions. He demanded control of his own music. He wanted full transparency over his royalties. Most of all, he insisted on being credited as an independent producer. And that made some powerful people very uncomfortable. At one point, Donnie secretly recorded a tense meeting with his record label executives. On that tape, he reportedly said, "I am not a commodity. If you want to buy my soul, you don't have enough money." According to his close friend Charles Mayo, that tape was placed in a brown suitcase marked, "Keep Singing." A month later, the suitcase vanished. Then came January 13, 1979. Donnie Hathaway was found dead outside the Essex House Hotel in New York, 15 stories below his window. The official cause? Suicide. But the story doesn't add up. Unreleased reports claimed he was still wearing his headphones when he fell. And just hours before, the hotel receptionist remembers Donnie calling the front desk in a panic. "Someone's broken into my room. They're after my documents." Police never followed up. His friends said Donnie had grown paranoid, haunted by the feeling that someone was always listening, that they were taking everything from him. Once, he canceled an entire interview after noticing the mic was still live long after recording had ended. Then, just a month after his death, his label dropped a greatest hits album titled Donnie Forever. Not a single dollar went to his wife or children. And as for his final recording, made just one day before his death, it's never been found. Some say it was a tragic coincidence. But to those who understand how this business really works, it was a message. Donnie was a man who kept receipts. He taped private meetings. He refused to be silenced. And then, he fell from the 15th floor. The suitcase disappeared. And the music, his truth, was buried. Not every assassination requires a gun. Sometimes all it takes is a fall. Fontella Bass, the voice that lit up a generation, and the name they tried to erase. When Rescue Me stormed the airwaves in the mid-1960s, it became an instant classic. But for decades, one haunting question lingered. Why wasn't Fontella Bass ever credited as a co-writer? She created the unforgettable hook. She gave the song its soul. That pleading, powerful cry for help? That was her. But when the paperwork came, her name was missing, vanished from every legal document. In a rare recording that mysteriously disappeared from the internet within 48 hours, Fontella revealed the truth. She walked out of the studio humming the song she helped bring to life, only to discover she had unknowingly signed away her rights. Buried in fine print was a single line. She had relinquished all ownership. No time to read. No lawyer. Just blind trust in a manager who would never speak on her behalf again. 3 months after Rescue Me hit the charts, a new contract appeared, naming Carl Smith and Reynard Minor as the official songwriters. They hadn't even been in the studio when the final version was recorded. When Fontella called Chess Records to confront them, the secretary coldly replied, "You have no claim here." Days later, her entire tour was cancelled. No explanation. Just silence. Friends recalled how Fontella crumbled, from defiance to disbelief to deep despair. Once, she showed up to perform on a Georgia TV special. The poster didn't even name her. It read simply, "Surprise guest, the voice of Rescue Me." She had become a ghost haunting her own masterpiece. In the years that followed, Fontella walked away from the spotlight and returned to the church. No more stage lights. No more royalties. No more identity in an industry that once fed off her brilliance. "They can steal my songs," she once said, but they can't steal the pain I carry. To this day, the question echoes, who wrote the clause that erased her name? And who orchestrated the silence that followed? Linda Jones, the angel silenced by a hidden conspiracy. Linda Jones didn't just die from diabetes. That's the official story, but it barely scratches the surface. What really happened to Linda feels less like a tragedy and more like a quiet execution. She collapsed in a makeshift recording studio, right in the middle of cutting a soul-stirring new ballad. But what most people never knew is that her death followed a chilling chain of events, irregularities no one ever investigated, and a contract so predatory it bordered on criminal. In 1971, a major record label came knocking with a hefty cash advance. But the price? Total creative surrender. They wanted ownership of every new recording, full control over production, and no co-writer credit. Linda, young, gifted, and unwilling to be silenced, refused. She scrawled 3 haunting words across the rejected contract. No voice for silence. 3 days later, her manager, who just happened to have deep ties to that same label, publicly ended their working relationship. Suddenly, her tour was canceled. DJs stopped spinning her records. One New Jersey radio host even admitted, "I was told to cut back on Linda." No explanation. Just an order. Her contract wasn't renewed. Her calls stopped being answered. She was blacklisted, but quietly, without a word. And then came the final blow. The song she was recording when she died was called My Rights to Love. A friend who heard the demo said it was about a woman stripped of everything, punished for knowing too much. That demo vanished. The master tapes? Gone. The sound engineer? Hired by the same label she had rejected. No paramedics were on site. No medical equipment in the room. Just a single line in the papers. Linda Jones dies from diabetic complications. But in the shadows of the industry, whispers told another story. That Linda had become a threat. A rebel. A voice too powerful for those who profit from silence. And while no bullet was ever fired, some say Linda Jones was eliminated all the same by an industry that couldn't break her spirit, so it buried her instead. Bobby Womack, the man punished for loving the wrong woman. When Bobby Womack married Barbara Cooke, the widow of soul legend Sam Cooke, the music world didn't just raise eyebrows, it turned against him. What looked like a controversial romance was actually the opening act of a quiet but brutal campaign to erase him. Bobby, once Sam's protege, stepped into Barbara's life mere months after Sam's tragic death. Their marriage shocked the industry, but few understood the deeper storm behind it. Barbara had been receiving anonymous threats while still signing her name as Cooke. A friend later revealed her haunting words, "If I don't remarry, they'll take everything Sam left me." Was it love? Desperation? Survival? Whatever the motive, the consequences were swift and merciless. Almost overnight, Bobby's career began to unravel. Record deals mysteriously vanished. His new album was shelved without explanation. Whispers spread through industry circles. Bobby had violated an unspoken rule. At RCA, the label that had championed Sam Cooke, insiders said Bobby was seen as an unauthorized heir, someone who dared to stand too close to a legend's legacy. He was denied access to Sam's unreleased recordings. His name was quietly excluded from tributes. Tours were canceled at the last minute. Contracts ripped apart before the ink dried. Then came the strangest twist. In 1971, a mysterious tape, a raw, emotional recording known only as The Confession Booth, briefly surfaced. In it, Bobby spoke of betrayal, paranoia, and the feeling of being watched after the wedding. It aired for just 17 seconds on a local radio station before the signal was cut. Behind the velvet suits and sultry ballads stood a man quietly exiled. Not by courts, not by laws, but by an industry that saw love as trespass and loyalty as a threat. Bobby wasn't guilty of a crime, but he paid a steep price for daring to love the woman the world decided he shouldn't. He didn't just break the rules, he exposed the power behind them. Betty Wright, the microphone that exposed the silence. Betty Wright didn't just sing, she testified. "I don't need anyone to tell me to shut up," she once declared. "I've got a microphone, and I'm going to use it to speak for those too scared to. But she never imagined that same microphone would turn into a weapon used against her. In 1989, during a quiet industry conference in Miami, Betty shared a chilling story of a young singer forced into sex by her manager in exchange for a recording deal. She never gave a name. She didn't have to. Within days, talk shows stopped calling. A solo album she had just completed was shelved without explanation. Silence became the label's loudest answer. Still, she didn't back down. On a late-night radio show, she said, "We live in an industry where abuse is rewarded, and truth gets you fired." That broadcast was later edited. Key parts erased. Whispers in the industry claimed a hidden circle of power. Managers, producers, and publicists had created a blacklist. And right at the top of that list was Betty Wright. Her last Grammy nomination was in 1988. After that, it was as if the industry erased her from its memory. She still recorded, still performed, but the spotlight no longer followed her. She called it the light being pulled out. One day, she showed up at the studio and was told her name wasn't in the news system. No badge. No entry. Just a cold sentence from the guard. "We've been ordered to update access. You're not on the list." Betty knew she had crossed a line no one was supposed to speak of. "I wasn't abused," she once wrote in her diary. "But I was punished for telling the truth." And when she left this world, her voice still echoed with untold stories, secrets she never got the chance to name. But her audience, those who still play her records and remember her fire, they know. Some voices don't vanish because they were wrong. They vanish because they were too real. Syl Johnson, the last man standing against the music industry. They called him crazy. Then they called him a ghost. But Syl Johnson was neither. He was a fighter, a bluesman with a voice soaked in soul and truth, and a backbone strong enough to challenge giants. When his song, "Is It Because I'm Black?" hit the airwaves, it wasn't just a hit, it was an anthem that cut through America's conscience. But what came next was even bolder. Syl did what few dared. He filed 72 lawsuits against some of the biggest names in the American music industry for stealing his sound, sampling his work without so much as a phone call. Most artists stayed silent. Syl went to war. And then, he vanished. TV interviews were mysteriously cancelled. His records got pushed into back rooms. A full documentary, already filmed, was suddenly shelved. One crew member recalled how Syl said on camera, "They don't want people to know black folks invented all this soul." Days later, the footage was gone, literally. A fried hard drive. A crashed server. "I've never seen a whole project disappear like that," one IT expert said. "Unless someone wanted it gone." But Syl wasn't finished. In 2007, the industry came crawling back, only this time in court. A wave of famous rappers got hit with lawsuits for sampling Syl's music. When asked why they never asked permission, one label shrugged, "We thought he was gone." Gone? They tried to erase him. Tried to silence him. But Syl Johnson never stopped fighting. "I'm the last one keeping the books," he wrote in his diary. "And it looks like they're gonna burn them." They buried the man. But every time his voice echoes in a hip-hop beat, in a bluesy riff, or in a courtroom battle, it reminds the world, Syl Johnson didn't disappear. He endured. And he made sure they never forgot who started the music. Marlena Shaw, the voice they tried to erase. Marlena Shaw wasn't just a singer, she was the spirit of freedom wrapped in velvet vocals. Her hit California Soul once swept across America like a warm breeze, seductive and untamed. But behind that unforgettable sound was a woman who refused to be silenced, even when the industry tried to erase her. In 1981, Marlena signed on to promote a major soft drink brand. But when the commercial aired, something was off. A black woman danced in a bikini to Marlena's voice, but her face was nowhere to be seen. All sound, no identity. Furious, Marlena stood her ground. "If you won't show my face, don't use my voice," she told a small press conference. The backlash was swift and silent. Her summer shows were abruptly cancelled. One TV producer confessed, "We were told to pull the invitation. They said Marlena was damaging the brand." But no one ever said who they were. Behind closed doors, Her name reportedly appeared in an internal memo labeled, "Not aligned with public relations strategy." Suddenly, her songs vanished from commercials. Her albums were dropped from distribution lists under vague claims of restructuring. The industry had made its decision: punish the woman who dared to speak out. But Marlena never backed down. "I can't sing about the soul if my soul is trapped in a distorted image," she said. Marlena Shaw passed away quietly in 2023, unbowed and unapologetic. They may have muted her career, but they could never mute her truth. She lived and sang like a woman who refused to be edited. Rick James, the rebel too wild for prime time. Once hailed as the unstoppable hurricane of black funk, Rick James burned through the music world like a man on fire, bold, raw, and defiantly unapologetic. But just as his star was reaching its brightest, television networks moved fast to dim it. And the silence that followed? Deafening and suspicious. It was 1981 when Rick electrified a national audience with his smash hit Super Freak, delivering a performance so provocative, so sexually charged, it rattled the suits in boardrooms across America. Behind closed doors, a secret meeting took place among top network executives. One insider allegedly said, "This black man cannot be allowed to dominate prime time." Within weeks, Rick was pulled from 3 live show appearances. NBC abruptly cut a promotional segment for his new album, no reason given. Whispers swirled that advertisers were pressuring the label to back off. Then came 1983. Rick filed a lawsuit over copyright infringement, but before the case could make headlines, a media firestorm exploded, allegations of drugs and sexual misconduct. One former attorney later hinted that lawsuit was buried. He was tried in the press, not the courtroom. From that point on, Rick James wasn't just silenced, he was blacklisted, branded as too dangerous for family TV. But he never played by their rules. As he once growled, "I don't make art to please them. I make art so they can't sleep." And decades later, his name still echoes like a ghost in television halls. Whispered, never spoken too loud. Because Rick James didn't just break the rules. He scared the gatekeepers. Ike Turner, the genius the industry tried to erase. Ike Turner was more than just a musician. He was a revolutionary. In 1951, his groundbreaking track Rocket 88 helped lay the foundation for what we now call rock and roll. Many call him the genre's father. But today, when his name is mentioned, it's not his music that people remember. It's the abuse. After Tina Turner publicly detailed years of trauma in her memoir during the late 1970s, Ike's legacy was scorched. He didn't just fall from grace, he was deliberately wiped from the industry's memory. But behind that public downfall lies a darker, more complex truth. In 1985, a journalist attempted to make a documentary about Ike's impact on modern music. He pitched it to 3 major networks, each rejected it, citing brand concerns. One producer even shared a chilling warning. "I received an internal memo saying if I worked with Ike Turner, we'd lose sponsorships from 2 media giants." It wasn't just about television. A promising album Ike produced for rising young artists was shelved indefinitely. No explanation was ever given. Even a comprehensive book on the history of R&B was asked to omit his name entirely to avoid moral controversy. Ike never denied his past. But in one interview, he asked a haunting question. If I weren't black, would they have condemned me for life? Maybe it wasn't just the abuse. Maybe his name carried too much power, too much history, to be allowed redemption. Though many can't separate the man from the harm he caused, others still see him for what he was. A raw, complicated genius buried beneath the weight of his own destruction, and the silence of an industry that once needed him, then turned away. And Peebles, the woman who refused to change her skin just to survive. And Peebles didn't need backup dancers, glitter, or gimmicks. With just one haunting line, "I can't stand the rain," she could stop time. Her voice was raw truth, soaked in soul, and unapologetically real. But in an industry obsessed with reinvention and image, that honesty came with a price. By the early 80s, disco fever and synthpop had taken over. Record labels pushed and to modernize, chop her hair, chase dance trends, and water down her sound. Most of all, They wanted her to silence the deep, old-school soul that made her iconic. And stood firm. "I don't change my skin to live," she told them. "If my soul isn't in the music, then I'm not in the music." That defiance cost her. A new album was shelved. A headline show in Detroit was mysteriously cancelled. A television producer later admitted he was warned, "And's not marketable anymore." And in those days, not marketable often meant too black, too soulful, too real. The final blow came in a recording session. Mid-take, the entire studio crew was swapped out. A younger, trendier singer was brought in, and Anne's track was stripped, remixed, and repackaged. No notice, no apology, and walked away without a scene. She returned to Memphis and quietly severed ties with those who had turned their backs. She didn't beg. She didn't conform. She kept her voice. She kept her soul. And Peebles wasn't pushed aside because she lacked talent. She was pushed aside because she refused to wear a mask. And that's why, even now, true music lovers still search for her voice. Because trends fade. But soul, real soul, never does. Marvin Gaye, a prophet caught in the crossfire between harmony and havoc. When What's Going On dropped in 1971, Marvin wasn't just a soul singer anymore. He became the voice of a troubled nation. A musical prophet. But with that truth came a quiet exile. Behind the applause, Motown nearly buried the song. Berry Gordy called it too political, too risky, and tried to shut it down. When the track soared to the top of the charts, Marvin thought he'd won. But the system didn't embrace him, it simply paused its attack. A national tour was suddenly slashed in half. One radio executive later admitted, "We were warned his songs might spark unrest." His future records were delayed, censored, or quietly shelved. Marvin once confided in his journal, "I wasn't murdered, but I was strangled by an invisible hand." He sang about love. He sang about war. But industry gatekeepers turned him into a shadow, too bold, too black, too truthful to touch. Still, Marvin refused to be silenced. He sang until the end, leaving behind one haunting question. Are voices of conscience always silenced first, especially when they're black? Sam Cooke, the voice that died for freedom. Sam Cooke wasn't just a soul singer, he was a visionary, a strategist, and a freedom fighter wrapped in silk vocals. In 1963, while the industry thrived on exploitation, Sam did the unthinkable. He founded Esther Records, a revolutionary label where black artists owned their rights and profits. He used his fame and fortune to back Martin Luther King and bankroll civil rights marches. That's when the walls started closing in. Radio stations began pulling his songs. A major TV appearance mysteriously vanished. Industry whispers spoke of a blacklist, and Sam's name was at the top. Then came the night of December 11, 1964. Sam Cooke was shot dead in a seedy Los Angeles motel. No witnesses. No security cameras. Just a police report calling it self-defense. But here's what they didn't tell you. Sam was carrying a file, plans for a national black musicians union, something that would have shifted the power forever. That file disappeared. Just like the man who dared to dream too loudly. Sam Cooke didn't die from scandal. He died because he was a black man with a blueprint for liberation, and that made him dangerous. The ones who were silenced weren't rebels or fools. They were warriors of truth in a world built to keep them quiet. Their stories aren't warnings, they're lessons in courage. Thank you for joining us on Exposed Hollywood, where we give voice to the legends they tried to erase. If you believe the truth still matters, hit like, share this video, and drop a comment honoring the artist who still sings in your soul.